Alrighty then. Microphone check. 1 2 1 2. We getting up in the joint. Let me see when it hits. And we live, baby. Is we live, baby? All right. And we are live. So, welcome. Back again, once again, time and time again, my friends. And it is Friday, the 28th. And you know what we do over here? Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, in between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a little live stream where we hop on and just look at some charts, see how the week ended, how the week's going. We look at where the pairs may be going in the future, and just overall chilling out, having a good time. So make sure you are subscribed with the post notifications turned on. That way you get notified when I do go live, so you don't miss it, because it will be anywhere in between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So with all that out of the way, let's hop right into it. You know how we started off? We started off with XAU USD. We've been speaking about this from the monthly time frame. Previous structure support. We broke and closed below this level, came back, retested this level as previous structure support, now turned resistance, and from there we are making our way to the downside. So we could see further continuation to the downside on this pair. If we look at the weekly time frame, on the weekly, just looking at the confluences, we've had a recent touch in this area. And when we last spoke about it, the market was making a move up in here, and we spoke that this could be a possible previous structure support, now turned resistance on this side. If we drop down to the daily time frame, you can see that we were identifying this level as some structure that could be holding the market down below it and acting as structure resistance, because we had, if we look back on the weekly, we had a left shoulder here, we had a head, and then we had the right shoulder here, where we did not want to see any of the market break above this area. We did get a tap into this zone, and then from there, our price has rejected to the downside very aggressively. Going into next week, we could see further continuations to the downside, and that is just from a daily time frame perspective. We have a move down, we have a retracement. We could see further continuations, but just to be on the safe side, if you would like to be a little more conservative, best probabilities would be to wait for the market to break below this structure here, because we do have on the daily an inverted head and shoulders, where you don't want to see the market break and close below any of this left shoulder, which it has not. And from there, you could see the rejection to the upside. So if you want to be safe in anticipating the move to the downside, which is not recommended, you don't want to be guessing, better be on the safe side than be sorry. So wait for a close below this area, and then we could see a continuation down into this zone to retest some of this structure support previously retested. Now from there, more probabilities to the downside if it does break through that zone, but if it starts to reject, we could see a bounce to the upside. So I would just wait for this area to clear, either breaking structure back up to the upside or breaking and closing below this structure here, and then looking for a nice and easy retracement. Now let's go over XAG USD from the monthly time frame. Again, correlating pair. These are some commodities on the monthly time frame. We've been speaking about it. We've had previous structure resistance right over here, broken to the upside, came back to retest this area, should act as structure support. We've had a few bounces out of this area, and we could see a continuation to the upside from here. If we drop down to the weekly time frame, you can see we've just been ranging in between this structure resistance and structure support. So the best probabilities would be to look for some breakout and then retest of this area, but that is on the weekly. If we drop down to the daily time frame, what can we see in a little more detail? Exactly as we pointed out on Wednesday, we wanted to see the market come into this area, previous structure resistance here, false breakout to the upside, created an M pattern. We had the move to the downside, and from there, this would be the best logical place to see the market come in and find resistance, as we do once again have this pattern. One of my favorites is a head and shoulders. We have the left shoulder here, head here, break down below, come back to retest the left shoulder, not breaking above it. We could see further continuation to the downside. So That would be my play going into next week for XAG USD. I would need to see a little more continuation, a little more daily closes below this daily structure break, and then from there I could be looking for the continuation to the downside. XBT USD from the monthly time frame, once again a commodity as well. We had this level marked out that we want to see the market stay above, and if it stays above this level, we could potentially have a left shoulder here, head. I know I'm saying it again, but an inverted head and shoulders on this pattern are one of my favorites, where we could see further continuation to the upside if the retracement wants to come. Now this is the monthly time frame. It would take some weeks for that to develop, but if we do drop down to the weekly time frame, you can see that we are starting to break structure to the upside. Last spoke about this. We needed to see a further break to the downside if we wanted to see the market break to the downside, but off of this double bottom down here, we are starting to get a bounce, which is creating a nice and easy pattern. If we do take a look, we have a move to the downside, move up, failed to break lower, and then from there you kind of expect prices to make a higher high, come back, retest some of this level neckline, and then see a continuation to the upside. Now this is the weekly, which it would take some days for this to develop, but just simply off the weekly, we are breaking above some structure, completing the impulse. So if we look at the daily time frame, you can see retracement is in order. We're breaking and creating structure to the upside. We've had resistance here with a false breakout, resistance here as well. Once we started to break out, came back for a retracement, retesting the most previous structure resistance that was broken, and then from there continued to the upside, which is the most common pattern in the market. It's just a simple break of structure, come back to retest that structure as the opposite. So if it was resistance over here, we're going to come back, retest that area as support, and then continue the most common pattern in the market, which is just a simple impulse, retracement, and impulse for a higher high to be created. And now this is setting up quite nicely as we have a market coming back and retracing right into previous structure resistance that should act as support. So going into next week, we could see a further continuation if the momentum slows down right around this area. We could get a slow momentum right in here, and then we could see further continuations to the upside on XBT USD. Now, if we slide down to US oil from the monthly time frame, we've spoken about it. Now, once again, we still have 3 days until this monthly candle closes. So now that we're getting close to the end of the month, this candle is starting to actually give us a good representation of how the candle is going to close. So we don't know what's going to happen in the next 3 days, but from the monthly time frame, we've had previous structure resistance right in here, broken to the upside, came back to retest, retesting it as the opposite previous structure support over in this area. And this is a good example of the market actually showing you that not everything is the same. So nothing is going to be exact. Things change. It may be a little different here or there, but as you can see, we've had the structure here that we didn't want to see broken to the downside. It did get broken to the downside, but this monthly candle is currently playing in between this area. So this area, this whole zone, is acting as previous structure resistance, now turn support. So we could see further continuations to the upside out of this market just from a monthly time frame perspective. If we do drop down to the weekly, you can see we're getting exactly what we wanted to see, or exactly what I called out in the last few live streams. We've had some structure here broken to the downside, created in the head, and you don't want to see the right shoulder break and close below any of the left shoulder. That's wick included. So we did not get that, and from there we're starting to create a movement to the upside. So once again, the most common pattern in the market, a break above structure, come back to retest the previous structure broken as the opposite, and then continue the trend for a higher high to be created. Now this is the weekly candle, so it's probably going to close as it is. We have about 2 hours and 45 minutes left until market close. And if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that this is setting up really nice for one of our strategies that we use over at the FX Savant University. Link in the description if you do want to check that out. I think it would be very valuable, something that all people can learn from, no matter what stage you are in your trading journey. But we've had a nice and easy impulse breaking above structure. We came back to retest the most previous structure broken. So this was the most previous structure broken to the upside after this big impulse. We came back, retested it as the opposite. It was recent structure resistance here, acting as support over here, and from there we are starting to make moves to the upside, looking to create a higher high. So if we just simply look at the daily time frame from here going into next week, if the market does provide some sort of retracement back down into this area and then gives me exactly what I need to look for a move to the upside, satisfying the rules of the strategy, I will be looking for that for a continuation to the upside on US oil. Now, we've been talking about a lot of these pairs for a while from a broad term perspective. And as you can see, they're starting to play out. So things that I said 2 or 3 weeks ago is starting to develop now, and that's just simply going from the monthly, weekly, and daily time frames, just giving them time to develop. So we've called out this previous structure right in here, and we want to see a bounce out of there for maybe 2 weeks on US oil. Now, we also called the continuation to the downside coming in, tapping some of these levels before it happened as well. All those are posted on my page. When I do a live stream, they do go public for you to view later. Now, hopping into the Forex market, going through the majors really quickly, we have Euro USD on the monthly time frame. We're breaking and creating structure to the downside. So on the monthly, simply just looking at the monthly time frame, this market is bearish. Regardless of the candle that it is currently creating, even though it is a bullish candle, we are still bearish. We still would like to see the market come in to test some of these previous levels and then continue to the downside. But that is from a monthly perspective, so it would take a while. When you do start the retracement, when the retracement does start, it may last for what seems like a long time, what could possibly be a reversal. But until we break some of these levels in here on a monthly perspective, on the monthly time frame, we are bearish. So keep that in mind. If we drop down to the weekly, you can see we are starting to break above some structure. We've had previous structure support right in here that we're currently testing right now, and we got rejected, but we didn't get rejected very or too aggressively, over aggressively. We're actually starting to create one of my favorite patterns. Dang near on almost every pair, we have a level in the market that was found here. We have a move to the downside. We have some consolidation, retesting the previous structure broken, a failure to break to the downside, and then we're looking to create some moves to the upside from there. And then from there, where do you want to see the market come back, retest previous structure broken for a continuation of the trend? So we have a nice inverted head and shoulders developing on the weekly time frame, that if next week this candle go ahead and makes the move to the upside, or the next candle makes the move to the upside or fills in the wick, we could be set up for further continuation to the upside after a retracement back down, just completing the pattern, the most common pattern in the market as well. So let's drop down to the daily time frame and see what we can identify. Is that on the daily time frame, we did have a run up this week. So Euro was really strong. USD was sort of weak this week. From there, we created an impulse to the upside, and we're now starting the retracement. It would be nice to see the retracement come back to previous structure broken, and then from there see the continuation to the upside for some higher highs on these lower time frames to be created. Now, once again, these moves to the upside are short term because on the monthly we are bearish, but on the daily and these lower time frames, we can take advantage of the retracement that will happen on the monthly. So it may happen for a few weeks, and we could take advantage of that, trading a counter trend on lower time frames. So it will be with the trend on the daily, but from a monthly perspective, it would be counter trend. So keep that in mind as well when you are looking to trade some of these major pairs that have the USD in them. They are in some territories that we've never been before, or recently coming out of territories that we've never been in before. And we're starting to make moves, retracing after reaching those areas. So we could see further continuation from the monthly, just because it is the higher time frame, and the higher time frame triumphs the lower time frames. So let's hop into GBP USD. On GBP USD on the monthly time frame, we did have a breakdown over the last few months, kind of aggressively, very aggressively making moves to the downside, reaching territories that have never been seen before. From there, we did find some support, and we are starting to create a bounce. So once again, we could see the monthly retracement last for a little while, but that does not mean that this is a full reversal on these lower time frames. If we look at the weekly time frame, we had structure that we wanted to see broken before we started to look for buy opportunities. We are getting that structure broken to the upside as of now, and that is on the weekly, that is on the weekly time frame. If we look at the daily time frame, you can see we are starting to create some impulses to the upside, where we could see further continuation on the daily, just for the monthly retracement to go ahead and complete itself. So depending on how this day closes, which it will probably close bullish, just the way that the candle is, because we have about 2 hours before market closes. This will most likely close the way it is. Volume starting to drop off as of now. Everyone's going home, they're leaving the workplace. So from there, it depends on how the next few days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, develops, depending on if I'll be looking for an opportunity to the upside or if I even get my right setup. So I'm just waiting for this to develop, but my overall outlook for next week is for price to come back, retest some of these areas again, and then make moves to the upside. AUD USD. Now, once again, these pairs are correlated because they're all have the USD in them. So they will either be showing a positive or negative correlation between the pairs and what the charts look like. So on the monthly of AUD USD, we spoke about how the market has not yet reached these levels down in here, these lows, these previous lows, and that will be a magnet for price to go to before it starts to make a move. Now on the week, this week, it was not a very aggressive week to the upside, showing the retracement that you want to see, but we did have an explosion out of this area, which makes it tough for the price to come back down and retest this area. But there could be a possibility that on the weekly, we just come back for a nice and easy retracement, retest some of these levels, continue down, tapping into the zone, and then starting the actual retracement from higher time frames. If we look at the daily time frame though, on the daily, we do have a bullish pattern that if it does break below the left shoulder, then you can look for further continuations back down to some of these levels. But as it is right now, we have the left shoulder here, we have price breaking below it, and then we have price coming back into the area. And from there, you want to see the market hold within this level and not break below the left shoulder. And after that, you expect a continuation to the upside because we're just in a simple TMCP, the most common pattern. Impulse to the upside, breaking structure, coming back to retest this structure as the opposite, and from there you just want to see the trend continue. So those would be my two options for AUD USD going into next week as well. You know, they are correlated, so a lot of these pairs will be showing the same things. Once again, just making that clear. On the monthly time frame of USD CAD, we do have a very, very strong impulse on the monthly. So this is a bullish pair from the monthly time frame, but we are starting the retracement. Where we like to see the retracement come to, we would like to see it come to previous structure broken, which would be right around in here, just for a trend continuation, just simple market structure. If we drop down to the weekly, you can see we are starting to break structure to the downside from a weekly perspective. We did have some support right in here on the weekly, and once we broke and closed below that, we came back to retest it this week, and from there got rejected. Exactly how the market works. If we want to take a deeper look into it from the daily time frame, you can see that we had this level in the market that was holding. Once we broke below it, we came back, retested it, you know, dang near perfectly right at previous structure support, now acting as resistance. And from there, the most common pattern in the market. This happens more times than not on all time frames. We have a break of structure, come back for a retracement, retesting previous structure that was broken, and then we have trend continuation. So from there, from here where we are, we did retest this previous structure support that is holding the whole structure up above it. So we could possibly see a movement to the upside from this area as we failed to break below once, twice, and now thrice, as this candle will probably close bullish as well. So I would like to see the market break back above some of this daily structure before I look for AUD or USD CAD longs, because we are retracing from higher time frames. So the higher time frames triumph the lower time frames, but just simply market structure the way it is, the lower time frames are not in confluence with the higher time frames. So honestly, it would be best to stay away from this pair if you're looking for buys, just because we are in the retracement stage on the monthly, and it would be better to look for break belows down this structure and then retest for further continuation, to go ahead and retest previous structure that was broken that caused this impulse. So you'd like to see the market come back, retest this level, and then from there make another move to the upside. So those could be the possible plays going into next week for USD CAD. If we drop down to NZD USD from the monthly time frame, you can see on the monthly we did come into previous structure support. That should act as support once again because we are approaching it from the upside. So we're coming down into this level. That is what makes it support. On the monthly time frame, we could see a little more retracement, so a little more bounce out of this area because it's been structure support one time before. If we drop down to the weekly, you can see on the weekly we are starting to break above the structure that we identified at the beginning of the week. You want to see the market break above this structure, come back, retest it, and then see the continuation for the monthly retracement. If we look down on the daily time frame, you can see this is setting up nice as well. This is the most common pattern in the market. We have a break of structure, come back, retest that structure as previous structure resistance, now turn support. We want to see the trend continue and create a higher high. We created a higher high, so now we're creating higher highs and higher lows. Once again, we broke above structure, came back, retest previous structure resistance as support, and from there we broke up, creating a higher high, the most common pattern in the market. And we have this pattern playing out once again, broke above some structure, coming back to retest previous structure resistance that should now act as support, and from there we just want to see another higher high made, continuing the trend of the monthly retracement. So we don't expect this market to go ahead and do a full-fledged reversal, start creating the higher highs and reaching all-time highs that we've never seen before, but a simple retracement back into previous structure on the daily, which we identified as this level right over in here. It could be a possible play going into next week. USDCHF from the monthly time frame, this is my baby. We had the break above structure, a perfect TMCP on the monthly time frame. So imagine if you were able to get in on the monthly time frame of this move. We did create a higher high breaking above the highs that was created. So pattern complete. If we look at the weekly time frame, on the weekly, just most recently this week, we can see that we had the impulse to the upside. Well, first off, we called out the W formation that we had, move to the downside, move up, move back down, break above structure. You want to see the market come retest the neckline. We got that perfectly to the T this week. Market came back and retest this pattern that completes 80 to 90% of the time. If you want the strategy on how to take advantage of this, check the link in the description as well. It's all there in the program. And then if we look at the daily time frame, you can see that we did get move up, breaking out of this structure. And then from there, we had some consolidation. We finally got an impulse to the downside. We are getting the retracement that is retesting some of this structure. We could see further continuations just based off the market structure. But for probability's sake, you would want to see the market come back and break above some of this structure. And then we have an inverted head and shoulders to go off of that could possibly provide further continuations to the upside, and then vice versa. If you want to see the market make the move to the downside to just continue the trend, impulse, retracement, retest the previous structure that was broken as the opposite, and just continue the trend, that could be a possible play, but you would need to be patient and wait for the retracement to end out of this impulse. So we have the impulse down, and this is the retracement started. Please be patient and don't just hop in for sales thinking this market is going to break down. If you do not get the first indication that the market is ready to go ahead and make a move to the downside after the retracement has ended. But those are my two possible options going into next week. And if we look at USD JPY from the monthly time frame, we know that this pair has been exploding to the upside. All these pairs are correlated, so the moves that are happening on USD JPY are the same moves that are happening on GBP USD, just they're inversely correlated. If we look at the weekly time frame, you can see the weekly time frame, it looks like we are starting the retracement, which is in order. You can't move in one direction forever, and you need the retracement in order to continue going and creating higher highs in this case, in this example. But to continue the trend, you need the retracements to come. The market can't go in one direction forever. We have previous structure broken right here. That could be a possible magnet to this market, where you want to see the move to the upside after a tap, after the broken structure. But since we are on the weekly and we've been making these moves to the upside for a while now, this retracement could last just a few weeks, where we could see just the market creating and breaking structure to the downside. So if we drop down to the daily time frame, we can see that we do have a move down below some of this structure, and we're coming in to retest it. We could see this being used as previous structure support, now acting as resistance, and we could see the continuation to the downside to go and retest some of these levels just from a daily time frame perspective. So that is what I would keep my eye for, because I would need the market to break back above this structure before I look for buys. So my two possible plays are just that: a move to the downside after the retracement has ended, and then opposite of that, we would need to see some structure created and broken to the upside for me to look for possible buys. Now let's slide down to BTC USD from the monthly time frame. What have we spoken about? Same thing over and over and over, keeping it consistent, keeping it very, very simple. You don't want to overcomplicate it. but we've had previous structure resistance now acting as support right over in here. Exactly the way the market works. This was the last area the market had trouble breaking above after we made this move to the upside. So now that we've came back to retest this area, we should see the buyers that actually push the market above this level step back in again and look to continue to push this market to the upside. If we look at the weekly time frame, on the weekly, you can see that we are starting to find some support right around the $18,000 area of Bitcoin. So we are starting to find some rejections right in this area, and we are starting to make moves to the upside on the weekly perspective, breaking above some weekly structure. So we could see a possible retest of that area for a continuation to the upside on the weekly time frame. But if we drop down to the daily time frame, a little more detail, we can see that we did have an impulse to the upside. We are getting the retracement as of now. We got the move back down here. It would be nice if the move continued back down to some of these areas and then gave us an opportunity, because that is what I would be waiting for, just for a simple move, nothing crazy, not to go see and retest all-time highs, but just to continue the market structure that's going on right now. And once again, I don't expect the all-time highs to be retested until 2024, which is when the next halving event will happen. And that's exactly what happened over here, which caused this big bullish run to the upside, touching about $69,000 per coin. So 2024 may provide the momentum, may provide the spark that we would need to see in order for those highs to be retested and maybe even broken to the upside. So not until then will I be looking for the market to go ahead and just explode to the upside. But you could and still can take normal opportunities. Hitting those home runs, you need to have all the information and everything with it in order to prepare yourself for that. As of right now, that information and everything, I don't believe will be here until 2024. So just normal market conditions on Bitcoin throughout this cold winter, and probably a lot of other cryptos as well. But that is pretty much it. If we ain't got no chats, I'm gonna go ahead and slide up out of here and let y'all get ready and start it with your weekend. Ain't got too much. So yeah, I appreciate you for viewing. If you did make it this far, once again, make sure you are subscribed with the post notifications turned on, because I do live stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as well, if you are subscribed with the post notifications on, you get notified anytime I do any posts. So not just these live streams, but I do also post educational YouTube videos that you don't want to miss out. Other than that, I hope you have had a profitable week. I hope you have a profitable day on and off the charts. And until next time.